Great presentation today. Back to basics, using phonics to improve reading and engagement regardless of students' reading level. So this is fantastic. I know um, when I started instruction, I started working with a low-level student and just understanding how to teach phonics and the importance of phonics. It takes a while, and so Janet's got some really good information to share with you guys today. All right, so before we get started with Janet, let me go over a little bit about, for those of you who haven't attended one of our webinars before, how to use the controls. So we're going to ask that you use the chat to introduce yourselves, which you've been doing, share links and resources with the group. That's where if Janet mentions some resources, Danielle will try to drop those links into the chat. Also, if you have questions for the group, you can post those in the chat. And Janet, during the presentation, will be asking you to post some responses to questions or activities that she has in the chat. But because the chat scrolls, it's really difficult for us to keep track of questions that you might have for Janet. So we're going to ask that you use the Q&A function to ask questions of Janet. So it's the little two dialog buttons there on your control bar. Type your question in, and that way we can track and make sure that everybody's question gets answered. We will stop taking questions at the top of the hour, but Janet's agreed to stick around for a little bit afterwards, and that way we can get everybody's question answered on the recording, and you'll get those sent to you. Okay. I mentioned the recording. So we are recording this webinar within the week. Usually Danielle is much more efficient than that. I like to give a lot of lead time, but within a week you'll get a follow-up email with links to the webinar recording. Janet's going to share her slideshow and a summary sheet of key points that she addresses during the presentation. That's a good resource for you to share with your colleagues back at your literacy program. We'll have a transcript of the chat and the Q&A, a certificate, excuse me, as well as scholarship information and membership information, which we'll talk a little bit about in a minute. You're going to get a separate follow-up email with registration links for coaching sessions, and you see the schedule there. You'll get a follow-up email with those links, and they'll be in the slides that Janet sends out to you. If you haven't participated in the coaching sessions, let me tell you a little bit about what those are for. So a lot of times we go to webinars, we get great information from Janet or other presenters. We get back to our program, it's maybe a couple of weeks later, we're trying to implement the strategies that we heard about, and they're not really working kind of the way that Janet might have described them, or maybe something comes up and we're not really sure how to answer it. That is what these coaching sessions are for. So as you're thinking about how to implement what Janet's talking about, or maybe you've started implementing it and are running into some barriers, you can sign up for a coaching session. There's up to 12 participants, and it's really just kind of a round robin for you to ask questions about implementation of the strategies. Sometimes the discussion goes into larger issues around working with students. Janet will share her ideas with you. A lot of times you get ideas from other people that are attending the coaching sessions as well, but they're just really an opportunity for some more individualized mentoring and coaching. I also mentioned the scholarships and the membership. So the scholarships are for New Readers Press materials. We are giving out 60 $1,000 scholarships for New Readers Press materials. Danielle will post some information in there in the chat, and there'll be information in the follow-up email. And what those allow you to do is if you maybe since we're talking about phonics, maybe you don't have kind of good phonics oriented materials in your classroom. You'd like to try something out. New Readers Press has a couple of really good phonics series, Laubach Way to Reading and Focus on Phonics. So let's say you want to try those out. That $1,000 scholarship will give you an opportunity to kind of order a classroom set, try them out, see if you like them. So that's what that's designed for. It's for anybody that's participating in this series of Teacher Training Plus webinars. And Danielle just posted the link to the scholarships in the chat. The other thing I mentioned was the free membership. Also something that we're doing for people participating in the Teacher Training Plus webinars. The free individual membership, the reason we're giving that away is so you can have access to all of the resources that we have on Education Network. If you've already been on Education Network, you'll know that the vast majority of resources on there are free, but there are things that are only available to members. For example, our basic literacy and ESL online tutor training materials. They're free to members. There's a fee associated with them if you're not a member. So this free membership will get you access to those courses. It'll also get you access to the archive of Notebook, our member publication that comes out about 3 times a year. It's for tutors and teachers. It has great lesson plans and teaching strategies and things like that in it. So I think that's all of my introduction. So I'm going to turn things over to Janet and let her introduce herself.
Okay, thank you very much, Todd and Danielle and Patty and everybody behind the curtains there. This is just my written bio. Basically, I've been teaching adults to read for now over 24 years. I have to update that slide. And I love it. It's a passion. So anything else is in the summary is there. Y'all can read that. Let's get rocking and rolling. By the end of this session, so at the end of today, you are going to be able to recall the basics of phonics, the letter sounds, digraphs, the rules, the identify the 6 syllable types and the sound the vowel makes. Those are all things that are way back in our brain that we don't remember. You know them, trust me. Dividing words into syllables. I'm going to introduce you to that. It is a way for students to be able to pronounce the word. It will not match the dictionary. Then, if you come to the coaching session, added bonus in the coaching session is I have an outline that is the systematic order that I teach phonics in that I can use with my student who is just learning letter sounds, as well as those reading at a much higher level, because phonics are hard for everyone. We've got a lot of upper readers who are sight readers. They don't know how to attack a word. So at the end of the coaching session, you will learn what order and how you can present material in a systematic order so that people can start using it right away. The students can use it in your class. You will also be getting, besides a copy of the slide deck, there is a student guide I have created that I give to my students for the 6 syllable types and what the rules are and everything like that. I also share it with my tutors because, like I said, none of us remembered what the rules were. And so I find print that if you're going to give it to your students, print it on a different colored paper. So mine are all printed on pink paper. So I tell my students, get your pink paper, and they know exactly what they're going for. Couple of things before we start. This presentation is geared towards native English speakers. It is not geared towards people who are learning to speak English. You can use it with somebody who is already fluent in English, and is now trying to learn to read, but I don't know how successful you would be taking a brand new English language learner and using the material. I mentioned the rules for dividing the words are so that you can pronounce the word. It won't match the dictionary, but with adult learners, often if they can say the word, they know what it is and what it means. So that's why we're going to be learning that special little tweak to dividing words. And then the other thing is nonsense words. I'm going to talk a lot about nonsense words, and you're going to see them. Nonsense words are a fantastic equalizer because it makes students use the rules. They are not pronouncing a word that they already know and saying, oh, that's a short A, so it has to be closed. No, they have to use the rules. It also lets you take your mixed level class and get everybody on an equal playing field. Heads up, when you start using nonsense words, please be sure to say them out loud in private to make sure that you are not making an inappropriate sound, inappropriate word, or spelling a word that is a real word, but it's just spelled differently. Because the last thing we want to do is have students see a word, it sounds like a real word, but it's the wrong spelling. Don't want to go that way. Phonics, by the numbers. We got 26 letters. We all know this, 26 letters in the English language. But there's approximately 44 unique sounds. I don't see what could go wrong. Do you? And notice the approximately. That is due to regional accents, dialects, things like that. So I'm going to show you a nonsense word. Okay? Not a real word. Take a minute, figure out how would you say this? Because we all come across words that we've never seen before. And like I said, this stuff is all back in our brain. So what in the world would you do with this sound, this word? Well, we've got our floor, lish, nade. First, why did we split there? Why did we say or instead of o or ah? Why a short I? Why a long a? All of those things that we instinctively know we have to teach to our students bit by bit. Slow and steady wins the race. Related to slow and steady bit by bit, focus on one topic at a time. So if you are working on closed syllables, you just focus on closed syllables. Don't talk about any other kind of syllable. Just focus on that closed syllable. Master the closed syllable, both reading and being able to say the words. Then you introduce the next topic and keep that in a little silo till they master that. Bring the two together, everything goes haywire, and then they sort it out. But stick to one topic at a time that's new. Don't try and teach all 6 syllable types at the same time. Anything that doesn't follow the rule is an exception, and we don't talk about it. And that is an important thing to tell your tutors. If you have people helping you in class, warn them. Don't bring up the exceptions. Let's learn the rule, then we can deal with the exceptions down the road. So I am famous when somebody asks a question, it's like, you know what? It's English. We took our language from everybody else, and that just doesn't follow the rule. and I just leave it at that. It's much easier. When I am working with phonics, worksheets and games are fantastic. They are engaging because phonics is boring. I'm sorry, it's boring. So games make it more fun. It's also a sneaky way to check knowledge and assess how students are doing. And like I said, break it into the smallest steps, which also ties quite nicely with SMART goals. Reminders. Let's remember those basic definitions of phonics. Consonants. Consonants can only make their sound. They cannot say their name. What do I mean by that? My name's Janet. It's not Janet, which is the name of the letters. It's Janet. It is the sounds. That's what I mean. I will use these terms with my students and throw in definitions to reinforce until they learn the terms. Vowels. Vowels can make their sound, also known as short, or say their name, long, and it's the syllable type that determines what sound that vowel makes. Long and short are a very hard concept. You will have students who will say, they know the short sounds, eh, I, But when you say long, they don't know what it means. They think a long vowel is Janet, and you say the short vowel sound for a very long time. So it is a terminology that you have to work with to teach some students because they never learned what long means. Other things to remember are digraphs. So think of digraphs. Two consonants come together and make a completely different sound. I like to tell my students, and this sticks with them, which is why I do it, they are married and can never be divorced. Here are the 6 most common digraphs: SH, CH, TH, PH, WH, CK. You never split them. These flat out memorization. It's all you can do is work on memorizing them. Then we have the ugly stuff. C or G followed by an E, an I, or a Y. They make their soft sound. So instead of G, they do S, Ch, and then Y. Y is just a hot mess. If it's at the start of a word, it's a consonant usually. Anywhere else, it's usually a vowel, and then it can make 3 different sounds. This is why phonics is so hard. Stay away from these. Try not to do your nonsense words where it pulls in the soft consonant sounds or include Y, because that's not the majority of the words. That can be its own little phonics, big phonics lesson at another time. So don't try and pull it in while you're teaching syllable types, for example. The last phonics reminder thing that you might find helpful is QU. I always explain to my students, Q is a chicken, and it doesn't go anywhere without its friend, the U. When you're working on your syllable types, you don't count the U as a vowel because it's helping the Q. So I stay away from words with QU until we're learning specifically about QU. Fortunately, it doesn't come up a lot in reading. So remember, as we're going through, if you have questions, make sure you stick them in the Q&A. As you think of them, at the end, I will go through all of them. Now, let's say you've got somebody who is day one and they don't know their letter sounds. And so they need to learn their letter sounds, but they also need to learn their syllable types so they can start to attack little words. Good news, you can introduce the letters and their sounds and work in syllables at the same time. Just make sure that the nonsense words your student is working with are the letters that they're learning. I've been throwing this word syllable out a lot. So remember, every syllable has only one vowel sound. Not one vowel, but one vowel sound. So you are only going to hear one vowel sound. We can have more than one vowel, but only one vowel makes a sound. So here's an example here. We have MIP. You hear one vowel sound. We have MIPE. You hear one vowel sound. You don't hear the E. By the way, this is an example of a nonsense word. Ready to dive in? Yeah. I sense it. I can tell it. Let's start with our first syllable type. This is the one I introduced first, is closed. Closed has only one vowel. Makes it easy for the students to spot. You see more than one vowel, it is not closed. And it has to end in at least one consonant. It can have 400 consonants after the vowel, but it has to have at least one. And because the syllable is closed, the vowel says its sound. It's short. So here are some examples. We've got one vowel. We have consonants after it. One vowel, consonants after it. One vowel, consonants after it. One vowel, consonant after it. Notice that it does not need to start with a consonant. Many of our students were taught consonant, vowel, consonant, and it's very hard for them to break that habit of needing a first consonant. Okay, so when you see little Mr. Winnie the Pooh with his think, and you see the little chat room symbol, you know I'm going to put you to work. I want to know, and you can just put the numbers in the chat, which one or ones of these are not a closed syllable. And I've got a combination of real and nonsense words. So open up your chat and take a look. Closed syllable, one vowel, ends in a consonant. Let's see what we're getting for answers. We're getting lots of twos, lots of twos, lots of twos. They're all closed, okay? E, I'm on two. None are closed. Okay, we got lots of stuff going on. So let's take a look at them. Here we have one vowel, the A, with the consonants after it. Closed. One vowel, at least one consonant. Here, two vowels cannot be closed because it has two vowels. Here, we have one vowel and at least one consonant. He's closed. And here we have one vowel and at least one consonant. So number 2 is not closed. All the rest are closed, which means we would have a short vowel sound. Ant, lamb, moth. when you're working with your students on closed syllables, don't use R's right after the vowel, because that's another kind of syllable. So we're going to just ignore having an R right after the vowel. Just stay away from it right now. Remember, if it's doesn't follow the syllable rule, it's an exception. We don't talk about it. Do make sure that whatever you're working, whatever nonsense word or real word that you're looking at follows the closed syllable rules when pronounced. English is full of exceptions, especially those sight words. So before you say, oh, that's closed, think of what it actually says in your head to make sure it does follow the rule when pronounced, meaning the vowel is short. And like I said, always include everyone, throw in those nonsense words that don't have a consonant in the beginning. Things you can use when you are teaching closed syllable. Put a worksheet that has all different nonsense words. And some of them are closed, some of them are Bossy R, some are silent E, some are consonant, whatever. And the student needs to go through and say, closed, not closed, 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 not closed, closed, and they have to pick. I always like to give my students an option of not sure. That's how I can get a feel for, did somebody just guess right all the time? Or are they, how confident are they feeling on their understanding of that closed syllable? This is in capital letters. I want to shout it from the rooftop. Do not let students say closed or open. It's closed or not closed, because there's 5 other syllables that it could be, and it could possibly be not open. So when you're giving your choices, closed, not closed, and then if you want extra insight, not sure. That's the first syllable I teach. Next syllable I teach is the silent E. And I go in this order because there's a lot of short words that are closed syllables. Then the next most common one is the silent E syllable. So it's letting us start hacking and using these skills in our reading. Our silent E ends in one E, and only one E. It has only one consonant in front of the E and has only one vowel in front of the consonant. Yes, we are going from the end of the syllable and working towards the front of the word. It is counterintuitive to the way we read. I know that. However, my students picked up and were able to more easily identify silent E syllables by starting at the end of the word. So that's what we do. So I warn them that this is not the way we read the word, but this is how we decide, is this a silent E syllable? Does it have only one E at the end? Now, right in front of that one E, is there only one consonant? And in front of that one consonant, is there only one vowel? And if they can say yes to all 3, they know they have silent E. The silent E gives all of its strength to the other vowel so that that vowel can say its own name, meaning it's long. So here we have ends in an E, one consonant, a T right in front, one vowel. Ite. Ends in an E, one consonant, one vowel. Leaf. one E at the end, one consonant, one E, heap, which actually that just broke my rule because that sounds like a real word. Notice I did say check those before you do them. Also notice it does not need a starting consonant. All right, your turn again. Thinking caps and to the chat. Of these four, which one or ones is not silent E? So in the chat, you can put what one or ones is not silent E. Remember, silent E ends in an E, has one consonant in front of it, and one vowel right in front of that. And let's see, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Good. Okay. All right. People seem to be loving that too. So let's check. Here we have ends in an E for number one consonant right in front of the E, one vowel right in front of that. We got a silent E. Number two, we end in an E. We have one consonant. Oh, wait a minute, two vowels. Doesn't follow the rule. This is not a silent E syllable. Number three ends in an E. One consonant, one vowel right in front of that. We've got a silent E syllable here. One E at the end, one consonant, one vowel in front of that. We have our silent E syllable. When you're doing your silent E syllables, do not stay away from that R again. Don't put an R between the vowel and the E at the end. Just stay away from it. Makes your life much easier. You can deal with that when it comes up. Remember, you do want silent E syllables that follow the rules when pronounced. So if you're referring to a real word and you want to say, hey, this is a silent E syllable, make sure it actually makes the long vowel sound before you point that out to your students. And remember, sometimes you want to have your worksheet include silent E syllables that do not start with the consonant. Now here's the real fun part. That worksheet you did for closed syllables, do it again. Although this time, your students have to pick between closed. Well, they have to pick between closed, silent E, other, or not sure. The idea of other means it's not closed and it's not silent E, so it's some other kind of syllable because we still have 4 to go. It can be a little confusing for your students at first, but you can reuse your earlier material. The next syllable I teach is the Bossy R. It has only one vowel, has an R right after the vowel. Think of the R walking behind the vowel, pushing it, pushing it, pushing it, telling it what to do. It's a great visual for my students. That R is so bossy, it tells the syllable, you're not closed anymore, and I'm going to change the sound of the vowel. So it's not long, it's not short. Students have a real struggling time with before and after the vowel. So that visual of somebody coming behind and pushing them from behind helps. Okay, we got some samples here. Gort, slurt, merm. It's not ga-ert or slit-ert or ma-er. You get that bossy R sound. Your turn. Back to the chat. Okay, who's not a bossy R in this mess? Bossy R's, one vowel with an R right after the vowel. So who is not following the rules here? Ones and fours are popular answers. 1, 3s, and 4s. Okay, let's take a look. Which ones are not bossy R? So we have an R with a vowel. Here's our vowel, R right after it, but we've got 2 vowels. This one's not bossy R. Here we have 1 vowel with an R right after it. Ding, 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 bossy R. 1 vowel, R right after it, bossy R. 1 vowel, wait a minute. The R's in front. It is not bossy R. So stay away from W, because W-A-R and W-O-R have different sounds. So just stay away from any bossy R syllable with a W in it. And make sure, as always, it follows the rules when it's pronounced. Sometimes does not start with a consonant. And throw in words with the R in front of the vowel instead of after the vowel to make sure that the student has that down. Next up, vowel open. Open has only 1 vowel, and there's nothing after the vowel. Because the syllable is open, the vowel says its name, it's long. So here we have 1 vowel, 1 vowel, 1 vowel, nothing after them. They're all open syllables. Who's not opened in this mess? Remember, we're looking for who's not open. Head to the chat. Let's see how it's going. We got 1 and 4, 1 and 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. Okay. Getting it. 2 vowels, not open. 1 vowel, nothing after it. It's open. 1 vowel, nothing after it. It's open. 2 vowels, not open. Be very careful when you are doing an open syllable that ends in an A, because very often it is the short vowel sound instead of the long vowel sound. Ma, pa. That's not may and pay. So be very careful. It's a little tricky using the A. And same rules. Make sure it pronounces correctly. And remember, and this blows students' mind, I and A are words without consonants, and they are open. Next up, consonant LE ends in 1 E. This is another one. We start at the end of the word, build forward. Has 1 L right in front of the E. I like to use the capital L if I'm typing because it distinguishes it between a capital I. And it has 1 consonant in front of the L. Now, when you have a consonant LE, there is this little sound between the consonants. You don't hear the E. You hear this little in between the 2 consonants. So there's where your vowel sound comes from, is that go, bull, zol. There's a little very short clipped o. Here are like go, go, bull, bull, co, co, dull, dull. It's almost like you drop your jaw more to say that sound in the real in a closed syllable as opposed to your consonant LE syllables. Okay, Tag, you're it. Who is not consonant LE in this one? Threes, we got threes, lots of threes. 3 is the winner. 3 is the winner for 2 reasons. 1, it's 2 vowels. Second reason, this is not a consonant. It needs to be a consonant, LE, hence the name. Fortunately, there's nothing to stay away with in consonant LEs. Just make sure they pronounce. This last one, the vowel pair syllable, is ugly. It's flat out ugly for a multitude of reasons. It's 2 vowels right next to each other. Only certain vowel combinations are considered vowel pairs. If they are not a certain combination, you split them when dividing them to pronounce a word. And we all learned when 2 vowels go a-walking, the first one does the talking. It's not true over half the time. Statistically, that is not a true statement. But that's the ones we're going to teach first, because most of our students know those. Here are vowel pairs, and you're going to get this, remember, you're going to get this slide deck, so you don't need to frantically write them down, that follow the when 2 vowels go a-walk, and the first one does the talking. So these are the ones I start with, and depending on my student, I may only do AI and AY to start. Other students say, give it to me all at once. I like doing only one, do my A's first, then my E's. Now, we've also got all the pig pen vowels and vowel pairs that don't follow the rules. So pig pen vowels are, some of you may know them as vowel digraphs, where it's a vowel and a particular consonant. We just call them pig pens. And there are all of these do not follow that rule, of the first one makes the sound. Hi, remember, put your questions in the chat. That's all the stuff that's buried way back in your brain that you instinctively know and don't remember. I did a lot of Googling to figure it out because I couldn't remember what the rules were. All right, how are we going to learn how to attack a big word? Okay, remember, this is in order to pronounce a word. The dictionary will not divide a word the same way. No digraphs or blends. Okay, just stay away from those right now. 2 consonants, but make sure they're not a digraph or a blend. And make sure there are only 2 consonants between each vowel. And to make your life so much easier, do nonsense words. That way you can control it so it fits the rules. So we've got our nonsense word here. Our first step is we're going to put an X under each vowel, because vowels, remember, 1 vowel sound. So we put an X under the O, an X under the I, and an X under the A. So we have 3 vowels. In this case, all 3 are going to make a sound. So here it is again with the consonants with an X under each vowel. Now we look between the first 2. That's why these X's are here. So we look between the X's. We have a B, we have an M. So we're going to split it right between those 2. That's why no digraphs now. And we're going to split between the S and the N. So we end up with FLOBMISNAD. Now our students can look at what kind of syllable it is and figure out how to pronounce each syllable and then blend the syllables together. So we have closed, short O, closed, short I, closed, short A. Lobmisnad. Lobmisnad. And how am I doing for time? All right, we're going to cheat ahead of here. We got this word that we're going to divide. First, X under every vowel. Now we're going to look between those vowels and split the two consonants up. What do you do when you have one consonant and a digraph between each vowel? See, that's the next step. First, just two consonants, not blends, not digraphs. Two consonants, you split them. Now we go into one consonant and a digraph, because digraphs cannot be split apart. They have to stay together. Remember, digraphs, married, cannot be divorced. But it's the exact same process. Some students find it helpful when they see a digraph in a word to kind of put a little scoop under it to remind themselves not to split the digraph up. Other students find it very distracting to have too much stuff written below the word. You guys just judge it based on your students. So when you are looking at this word here, we have, first thing, X under every vowel. So we have it under the O, under the I, under the A, under the E at the end of the word. Oh my gosh, we have to check. Do we have silent E or consonant LE? Let's look. We've got an E, one consonant, one vowel in front of it. That's silent E, meaning this is not going to make any noise. This E at the end doesn't say anything. I have three vowel sounds, three syllables. So I look. I have R, S, H. Well, I know I can't split up the R. We can't split up the SH, so I have to divide between the R and the SH. Between the I and the A, I have L and I have N. I can split there. And this ADE has to stay together because it is a silent E syllable. So here we've got our digraph, and then we have our silent E syllable. I will then throw in common blends into the mix. Common blends, two consonants, one letter must be an L, an R, or an S. You've all heard of those. I like to tell students they're married, but each letter keeps its own sound, and they are open to a trial separation, meaning they can be split if you need to for when dividing words up. So now you can go with one consonant and a blend between the words. Same thing, but don't split up the words. Or don't split the words. Don't split up the blend. The last thing, oh lordy, is when there's only one consonant between the vowels. This is the hard part because there is no rule. When you have one consonant between two vowels, oftentimes that one vowel or that one consonant wants to go with the second vowel. And that's true a little over half the time. So that's why we tell our students start doing that. The exception is if that consonant is an R, and in that case, it's a bossy R, and it has to go with the first vowel. So here we have C-A-T. So the T wants to go with the second syllable. E-R, R has to stay with the E because it's bossy R, and then our last syllable. 3,000 things, the syllable types, and the phonics, like I said, those are buried somewhere deep in your mind, and I'm not saying that they're going to come back right away, but they are in there somewhere, and with some review, they'll come back. And then the dividing the words for pronunciation is definitely new. Before you all scoot away, 2 things. Besides filling out the survey, let me know how I did today, what could be better. There's always room for improvement. And then also remember the coaching sessions. In the coaching sessions is where you can come and say, can you do that dividing thing again? I didn't get that. Or, and you can bring words to it. It's also where I'll go through the order of how I introduce it to my class, step by step by step by step, and progress as we have mastery. So you got your QR code you can scan right now to do feedback, and it's also your last opportunity to put questions in the Q&A. So you can do that. And then this is a slide about the upcoming webinars. But the coaching sessions for this session will be before the for example, on April 2nd, I am doing a session on what you want me to write too? And it's strategies for low-level or anxious writers. Because you can have a very fluent reader who is just scared to death to put words to paper. So it's strategies to give the student confidence. But that's in a few months. Let me take questions.
Yes, Janet, we do have 2 questions, but I was going to say, what a great webinar. I really loved it. It was so well explained and broken down. So I even learned so much today. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Good.
Yes, we do have a couple of questions, and these were asked right in the beginning when you were going through your first slides. And one of the questions says, what percentage of English words follow the phonics rules?
Almost none of them. No. And that's, I don't know the exact percentage. One of the things of English is that we have taken words from every other language there is. For example, pajamas is Arabic. We took it from the Arabic word and changed the spelling a little. Also, that one consonant between 2 vowels messes it up. And then you add in the soft C, the soft G, W in front of the AR or OR. So that's why I was telling you to stay away from some things until your students have, what do I do with the normal stuff? And then we can talk about those special exemptions. So not exactly a full answer, but the best I can do.
And thank you so much for that, Janet. Yes, the other question is, do you use exceptions with sight word lists?
I explain the sight words as I tell my students they're the most common words in the English language, so you're going to see them all the time. Most of them do not follow the rule, which is why you have to just memorize them. It sets them up for realizing not everything is going to follow the rules. And then I give the example of the word of, O-F. Who in their right mind decide that should be pronounced it should be spelled U-V if it was going to follow the rules. So I do just tell them it's just an exception, and anything I don't want to talk about, I just say that's an exception, spell it this way. So they know there's something weird, but I can still help them with their writing or being able to pronounce it.
Perfect. Thank you for that answer. And you also mentioned that this is not for non-native English speakers. So do you have any suggestions for those, for the non-native English speakers?
Honestly, this one, not so much. My SMART goal presentation translates over to non-native English speakers. My forte for 24 years has been native English speakers. So I don't have a lot of experience with ELL, ESL, ESOL, whatever terminology your program uses. And most English language learners are more focused on pronouncing the word, being able to speak rather than read. Once they have the vocabulary and can carry on a conversation normally, fluently, things like that, then I would just introduce the material in the exact same way, because then you're not dealing with the having to worry about the vocabulary or confusing, you're not bringing grammar in because they can already speak it formally, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you for that. And Danielle, I wasn't sure if you want to read the other questions, the one regarding the syllable division.
You can do them.
Okay, because it says, Barbara asked, do you teach syllable division before working on CVCC word configuration? So I wasn't sure if I was saying that right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know exactly what Barbara's asking.
Thank you.
I start off, and this is part of what we'll go into more in the coaching session, but we do closed syllables, we do silent E, we do Bossy R, and then I'll introduce dividing words with two consonants in between because they haven't learned open syllables yet. But then, because at that point, those three syllables cover an awful lot of syllables. Between the closed, the silent E, and the Bossy R, that covers a lot of syllables in words. So now they can start attacking those bigger words, and that's when you need to be careful to make sure that you are encouraging them to use those skills when they are reading, because so often the students, they can, oh yeah, I know my silent E's, I know my closed, I know this, I know, yep, and they've got mastery of it all, but they forget to take that little skill and put it with the word represent, for example. And how do I attack the word represent and figure out how to pronounce it? So you have to teach them to bring the individual little skills over into whatever they're reading.
Thank you. And Janet, we have one more question, unless this is also the time you to answer, to type in any other questions you might have. Sorry, but do you stay away from numbers like 1, 2, 4, etc., like in the written format? There seems to be exceptions.
They're full of exceptions. So, yep, I stay when I am teaching. So, my entire class is not phonics. I mean, we have part of my class, we are doing syllable work, which could be learning a syllable, practicing dividing words. Anything that I'm talking about is one segment of every class. And when I'm in that segment, oh, do I stay away from any word that is an exception. But outside of that specific window of class, numbers are fair game. And I just point out, hey, it's an exception. Or that's a syllable type that we haven't learned yet. For example, 3, vowel pair. What else do you have?
Okay. Wow, we have reached the end of the questions. There are no more questions in the Q&A. That's how, fantastic this presentation was.
Well, you're going to get, like I said, Danielle's going to send out a reminder. She'll also send out a separate email about those coaching sessions. I will reach out and remind you about coaching sessions. And that is your time. When you sit there and you find a word and you want to try and divide it and you're like, not working, I don't remember the first step. Bring that word to a coaching session. That's exactly what the coaching sessions are for, is to practice that skill and to learn what do I do with this word in class when it doesn't follow the rule? How do you address that? So I'm hoping I'll see all of you at coaching sessions.
There's just one comment, so thank you. The syllable refreshers were really helpful. So they really helped out.
Good.
Think, Danielle, is there anything else that we might want to add, or Todd?
Yeah, I was just going to say thank you everybody again for coming. Again, to remind you guys to check out the Teacher Training Plus webpage for upcoming webinars in basic literacy or English language learning, high school equivalency. There's a lot of different topics there. And we'll see you hopefully at some of the coaching sessions or one of the other webinars. Thank you very much. Have a great day.